Have you ever felt it? That quiet, hollow ache in the center of your chest, a feeling of being on the outside looking in, even when you're in a room full of people? It's not sadness, not exactly. It's more like a color missing from the spectrum of your emotional life, a fundamental note you can't quite hear, but you can feel its absence. You might be successful, you might be loved, but there's a persistent, nagging sense of being different, disconnected. As if you're a ghost moving through your own life, unseen, unheard, fundamentally misunderstood. This feeling, this profound and often nameless emptiness, is the quiet legacy of an invisible childhood wound, emotional neglect. It's the injury that leaves no visible scar, the silence that screams louder than any argument. It's the simple, devastating experience of not being seen, not being validated, not being responded to emotionally in a way that mattered when you needed it most. It's the love you didn't receive, the questions that were never asked, the tears that were never soothed. And because it was an absence, a lack of something, you grew up believing the emptiness was your fault, that you were the one who was flawed, too needy, too sensitive, or simply not enough. Imagine a tiny, fragile seed. For this seed to grow into a vibrant, strong tree, it doesn't just need to be protected from storms. It needs sunlight. It needs water. It needs nutrient-rich soil. These aren't dramatic events. They are the consistent daily nourishment that allows the seed to fulfill its potential. Now, imagine that seed was planted in a safe place, free from harm, but it was left in the shade. It was given just enough water to survive, but not to thrive. The soil was barren. The seed wouldn't die, not outright. It would grow, but its growth would be stunted. Its leaves would be pale, its branches thin, its roots shallow. It would look up at the towering, verdant trees around it and wonder, what is wrong with me? Why am I not like them? The seed would never know that it wasn't its fault. It was never given what it needed to truly flourish. This is the story of childhood emotional neglect. It is not about the presence of abuse, but the absence of attunement. It's the story of the invisible, unfed needs of the heart. We are going to walk through this quiet, shaded garden of your past together, not to cast blame or to dwell in the pain, but to understand, to finally give a name to the nameless ache, and to learn how to become your own gardener, to find the sun, to provide the water, to enrich the soil of your own soul. This journey isn't about changing the past. It's about transforming its legacy within you. If this idea of finally understanding the unseen parts of your story is already sparking a glimmer of recognition, a flicker of hope for you, take a moment to subscribe to Mind Decode Explained. We journey through these intricate landscapes of the mind together, illuminating the shadows and rediscovering the path to our most authentic selves. To truly grasp the depth of this, we must first understand what emotional neglect is not. It is often a quiet, insidious process, not a series of traumatic events. Your parents may have been wonderful people in many ways. They likely provided a home, food, and education. They may have loved you dearly, in the best way they knew how. This is one of the most confusing and painful aspects of healing from emotional neglect. How can you grieve for something you were never given? How can you be angry with people who may have done their best? This isn't about blaming your parents. It's about acknowledging a developmental injury. Dr. Jonas Webb, a pioneering psychologist in this field, defines childhood emotional neglect, or CEN, as a parent's failure to respond enough to a child's emotional needs. That word, enough, is crucial. It's not about perfection. It's about a consistent pattern of emotional mismatch. It's the child who runs to a parent, excited to show them a drawing, only to be met with a distracted, "That's nice, dear," without so much as a glance. It's the teenager who comes home heartbroken from their first breakup and is told, "You're overreacting. There are plenty of fish in the sea." Instead of, "I'm so sorry you're hurting. Tell me what happened." It's the child who is afraid of the dark and is told to be a big boy and stop being silly. The message, repeated over and over in 1,000 small ways, is simple. Your feelings are an inconvenience. Your feelings are wrong. Your feelings don't matter. So, what does a child do with these feelings that are dismissed or ignored? They do what any of us would do to survive. They learn to push them down, to wall them off. They build an internal fortress to contain the messy, inconvenient, unacknowledged parts of themselves. This is not a conscious decision. It is a brilliant, unconscious adaptation for survival. The child essentially learns to neglect themselves. They become their own emotionally absent parent. They disconnect from their inner world because it is proven to be an unsafe or unproductive place to dwell. This creates what psychologists call a false self, a carefully constructed persona that is agreeable, competent, and independent. On the outside, the adult who experiences CEN often looks like they have it all together. They are the reliable friend, the high-achieving employee, the one who never asks for help. They are masters of self-sufficiency. But beneath this capable exterior lies that hollow ache, that profound sense of emptiness and disconnection. They feel like a fraud, an imposter in their own life, because they are disconnected from their own authentic feelings, the very core of who they are. This deep sense of disconnection is rooted in our most fundamental human need, a need as primal as food and water, the need for attachment. The work of British psychologist John Bowlby on attachment theory revolutionized our understanding of this. Bowlby proposed that we are biologically wired to seek proximity to our caregivers in times of distress. This isn't just a sentimental idea, it's an evolutionary survival mechanism. When a child is hurt, scared, or overwhelmed, their attachment system is activated. They cry, they seek out a parent, expecting comfort and reassurance. When the caregiver responds with sensitivity, picking up the crying baby, soothing the scared child, it accomplishes two things. First, it regulates the child's nervous system, calming them down. Second, and perhaps more importantly, it sends a powerful message. You are not alone. Your needs are valid. I am here for you. This secure attachment becomes the foundation, the blueprint for all future relationships. It teaches us how to trust others, how to rely on people, and how to understand and manage our own emotions. But what happens when the caregiver is emotionally unavailable? When the cry for comfort is met with silence, distraction, or irritation? The child's nervous system is not regulated. The distress remains. But even more damaging is the psychological lesson learned. My needs are a burden. Seeking help is pointless. I am on my own. The child's attachment system doesn't just disappear, it becomes disorganized. They may develop what is known as an avoidant attachment style. They learn that suppressing their emotional needs is the safest way to maintain a relationship with their caregiver. They become the easy child, the one who never causes any trouble. They carry this blueprint into adulthood. They struggle to ask for help, finding it terrifyingly vulnerable. They may feel uncomfortable with intimacy, pushing partners away when they get too close. They often believe that they must handle everything themselves, that being needy is a sign of profound weakness. They become the lone gardener, tending to their stunted tree in solitude, convinced that asking for help would only prove their inherent inadequacy. This internalized belief that your feelings are invalid and your needs are a burden is the cruelest part of the legacy. It becomes the lens through which you see the world. You might achieve great things, but you can't feel the pride of your accomplishments. Why? Because you've learned to distrust your own positive feelings. You might be in a loving relationship, but you live with a persistent, low-grade fear that if your partner saw the real you, the needy, emotional you that you've hidden away, they would leave. This is the core of the imposter syndrome that so many adults with CEN experience. It's the feeling that you are constantly performing, and one day, the curtain will be pulled back and everyone will see that you are empty inside. The truth is, you are not empty. You are full. You are full of all the emotions you were forced to lock away in the basement of your psyche. The grief, the anger, the joy, the longing, it's all there, waiting. The emptiness you feel is not an absence of emotion. It's the absence of connection to your emotion. Let's return to our metaphor of the garden. For years, you have been trying to make your tree grow by focusing on the external. You've been trying to force its branches to be stronger, its leaves greener, by sheer willpower. You've been comparing it to other trees, berating it for not being tall enough, not being lush enough. But the problem was never the tree. The problem was the environment. The problem was the lack of sunlight and water. Healing from emotional neglect is not about trying harder to be better. It is about changing the internal environment. It is about becoming the attentive, attuned gardener your inner self has always needed. So where do we begin? The first step is the hardest and the most courageous. Acknowledging the invisible. It's looking back, not with blame, but with clarity, and saying, I needed something as a child that I did not receive. My feelings were not adequately validated or responded to. And that has had a profound impact on me. This act of recognition is itself a revolutionary form of self-validation. You are finally giving a name to the ghost that has haunted you. You are turning on the light in a dark room. For many, this is a moment of profound grief. You are grieving for the childhood you wish you had, for the emotional connection you craved. You are grieving for the child who felt so alone. It is essential to allow yourself this grief. It is the rain that the dry soil of your soul has been thirsting for. This is not self-pity. It is self-compassion. It is the necessary first step toward reclaiming the parts of yourself you were taught to abandon. The second step is to begin the process of identifying and labeling your feelings. This may sound simple, but for someone who has spent a lifetime suppressing their emotions, it can feel like learning a foreign language. Your emotions are the signals from your inner self, the sunlight and water that tell you what you need. Because you learn to ignore these signals, you have to consciously retrain yourself to listen. Start small. Throughout the day, pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Don't judge the answer. Just notice it. Are you feeling a tightness in your chest? Maybe that's anxiety. Are you feeling a heaviness in your limbs? Perhaps that's sadness. Are you feeling a bubbling sensation of warmth? That could be joy. Get a journal, a feelings dictionary, and just start writing them down. At first, your vocabulary might be limited to fine, bad, or okay. That's normal. But as you practice, you will start to notice the subtle shades and textures of your inner world. You will learn the difference between frustration and disappointment, between contentment and excitement. You are, in essence, re-establishing a connection to your own internal guidance system. You are beginning to hear the whispers of the tree, telling you when it needs sun and when it needs water. As you start to identify your feelings, a common misconception often arises: the fear of being overwhelmed. Many people who have suppressed their emotions for years believe that if they open the floodgates, they will be swept away by a tsunami of unbearable pain. They believe their anger will be a destructive fire, their sadness a bottomless pit. This is a story told by the frightened child within, who learned that emotions were dangerous. But as an adult, you have resources and a capacity for understanding that you didn't have as a child. The truth, as echoed in the work of neuroscientists like Dr. Dan Siegel, is that when we name an emotion, when we name it to tame it, we actually move the activity in our brain from the reactive, emotional limbic centers to the more thoughtful, rational prefrontal cortex. The act of labeling the feeling gives you a sense of agency over it. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds the storm. You can observe the lightning and hear the thunder without being destroyed by it. The goal is not to control your feelings, but to befriend them, to listen to their wisdom. Anger tells you a boundary has been crossed. Sadness tells you you've lost something important. Fear tells you to pay attention. They are not your enemies. They are your most loyal messengers. This leads us to the heart of the healing journey, learning to reparent yourself with the compassion you were denied. This is where the work of Dr. Kristen Neff on self-compassion becomes not just a helpful tool, but an essential lifeline. Self-compassion involves treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer a dear friend who was struggling. It has three core components. The first is self-kindness versus self-judgment. When you make a mistake or feel a difficult emotion, instead of berating yourself with that familiar inner critic, "You're so stupid," "You're overreacting again," you offer yourself words of comfort. "This is really hard right now. It's okay to feel this way. You're doing the best you can." You are actively replacing the voice of the neglectful parent with the voice of a compassionate one. The second component is common humanity versus isolation. This is the antidote to that feeling of being uniquely flawed and alone. Emotional neglect whispers to you, "No one else feels this way. There's something wrong with you." Common humanity reminds you that suffering and imperfection are part of the shared human experience. Everyone struggles. Everyone feels inadequate at times. When you are hurting, you can remind yourself, this is a moment of suffering. Suffering is a part of life. Other people feel this way too. This simple reframing connects you to the rest of humanity, dissolving the walls of isolation that neglect built. The third, and perhaps most powerful component, is mindfulness versus over-identification. Mindfulness is the ability to observe your thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them. It's that ability to be the sky holding the storm. When you are mindful of a painful emotion, you acknowledge it without letting it define you. Instead of saying, "I am sad," you can say, "I am experiencing a feeling of sadness." This subtle shift in language creates a space between you and the emotion. You are not the sadness. You are the one who is aware of the sadness. This space gives you the freedom to respond to your pain with wisdom and kindness, rather than reacting to it with fear and suppression. Imagine our lonely gardener again. For years, they have been shouting at the tree, "Why aren't you growing properly?" Now, with self-compassion, the gardener kneels down. They gently touch the pale leaves, self-kindness. They look around and see other gardens, noticing that all trees have their own struggles and seasons, common humanity. And they simply sit with the tree, observing it without judgment, noticing what it truly needs, mindfulness. This is the work. It is quiet. It is internal. It is the slow, patient process of tending to your own inner garden. As you practice this, you will begin to dismantle the false self and allow your authentic self to emerge. This can be a disorienting process. You've spent your life being the self-sufficient one, the one who never needs anything. Now, you are learning to acknowledge your needs. You are learning to ask for help. This is a radical act of self-love. It might be as simple as telling your partner, "I had a really hard day, and I just need a hug." It might be reaching out to a friend and saying, "I'm feeling really lonely right now. Can we talk?" Each time you do this, you are rewriting the old script. You are proving the childhood belief, "My needs are a burden," wrong. You are teaching your inner self that it is safe to be vulnerable, that it is okay to need others. This is how we build secure attachments in our adult lives, healing the wounds of the past. Of course, there will be setbacks. There will be days when the old habits kick in, when the inner critic is loud, when the emptiness feels vast. On these days, it is more important than ever to practice self-compassion. The goal is not perfection. The goal is connection. Connection to yourself. When you fall back into old patterns, you simply notice it without judgment and gently guide yourself back to the path of self-kindness. There's that old feeling of wanting to hide. It's okay. That was a survival strategy for a long time. But I am safe now. I can choose to stay present with myself. Each time you do this, you strengthen the neural pathways of self-compassion. You are literally rewiring your brain for more resilience, more connection, and more joy. The final and most liberating stage of this journey is learning to feel and embrace the full spectrum of your emotions, including joy, excitement, and pride. For many who grew up with CEN, positive feelings can be just as uncomfortable as negative ones. You may have learned to downplay your successes, to deflect compliments, to not get too happy for fear that the other shoe would drop. Healing means allowing yourself to fully inhabit your joy. It means celebrating your victories, no matter how small. It means letting yourself feel proud of who you are and what you have overcome. It means accepting love and kindness from others without the suspicion that you don't deserve it. This is the ultimate act of reclaiming your life from the shadows of neglect. It is allowing your tree to not just survive, but to finally, fully blossom, to feel the warmth of the sun on its leaves, and not shy away. The hollow ache you have carried for so long is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that you are human, a sign of a deep and abiding need for connection that was not met. The emptiness is not who you are. It is a space waiting to be filled. Filled with your own compassion, your own attention, your own love. You are not the invisible child anymore. You are the wise and compassionate adult who can go back and find that child. You can take their hand, look them in the eyes, and say the words they have always longed to hear. I see you. I hear you. Your feelings matter, and I will never, ever leave you. The journey out of the quiet emptiness of emotional neglect is not a sprint. It is a lifelong practice of returning to yourself. It is the patient work of a gardener learning, season by season, how to cultivate a landscape of deep and abiding self-love. The silence of the past does not have to be the soundtrack of your future. You have the power to fill that silence with the music of your own authentic feelings, your own voice, your own truth. The tree that grew in the shade may never be the tallest in the forest, but its branches will be strong, its leaves will be vibrant, and its roots, now deeply nourished by your own care, will hold it steady through any storm. And its unique, hard-won beauty will be a testament to the most profound journey of all, the journey home to yourself.